There you go. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayam Vishnu Paramahamsa Privrajika Acharya Shtatrashat His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnu Paramahamsa Privrajika Acharya Shtatrashat Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Maya Ki Jai. Yamuna Maya Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai. Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Prabhu Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Before you start, hold on, I can get this back in the class. I think we should set up the fans today. We have fans. Otherwise, tomorrow morning, my tongue, I can do it.
No, it's getting hot. So today is the appearance day of Shiva Krishna Pandit, and we'll read something about him. He's a very close associate of Krishna. He's actually known as his name is Tungavidya Shaki. He's one of the 8 most closest associates of the gopis of Krishna. And we'll read about him. And he's also a great ecstatic dancer and a singer too. So, once in the house of Srivas Thakur, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sang while Vakrishra Pandit danced in constant ecstasy for 72 hours. And it's 3 days. At that time, Lord Chaitanya said, Vakrishra, I have only one...
2 hours straight.
Straight, no stop.
72 hours straight. 3 days.
I have only one wing like you, but if I had another, certainly I could fly in the sky. This is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saying to him. Expert at singing and dancing, Vakrishra Pandit always pleased Lord Chaitanya with his service in the Navadvip Sankirtan parties, which he joined from the beginning. The dramas at Shiva's Angam and the early Ratha Yatra Jagannath Puri. Vrindavan Das Thakur said, to awaken the sleeping souls in the age of Kali, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to distribute the nectar of the holy name of Krishna. When he came, the call of mridanga and kartal sounded like thundering clouds, absorbed in moods of ecstatic love and shouting, Hari Bol, Shri Gauranga, told everyone to chant the holy name of Krishna. Raising his golden arms to the sky, Lord Gauravahari would dance in ecstasy. At that time, Vakrishra Pandit and others would dance with the Lord. This is from Chaitanya Bhagavatam. By Vakrishra's blessings, Devananda Pandit was freed from the Vaiṣṇava aparadh he committed against Srivasa Pandit. Then Sri Chaitanya accepted Devananda Pandit as one of his own devotees. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu commented on this incident like this: Krishna has made his home in the heart of Vakrishra Pandit. As Krishna dances in his heart, so Vakrishra Pandit himself dances. Whatever place Vakrishra Pandit blesses with his association becomes a holy place of pilgrimage, more sacred than the holy places. Certain great devotees such as Vakrishra Pandit, Paramananda Puri, Swarupa Damodar, Gadadhar, Jagannatha Pandit, Sankar, Raghunatha Vaidya, and Raghunatha Das were associating with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from the beginning of his pastimes in Navadvip. They also faithfully served the Lord when he moved to Nilachala Dham, Jagannatha Puri. Vakreshwara Pandit established deities of Sri Sri Radha Kanta in Kashi Mishra's house next to the Gambhira in Jagannath Puri. Kavi Karnapur says Vakreshwara Pandit is an incarnation of Aniruddha or Chaturvyuha. Vakreshwara Pandit initiated Gopal Guru Goswami and many others in Orissa. Dhyan Chandra, a disciple of Gopala Guru Goswami, says in his books that Vakreshwara Pandit is an incarnation of Tungavidya Shaki, an expert singer and dancer, serving as one of Srimati Radharani's Astasakis. His samadhi is in a 64 samadhis area. So that's something about Vakreshwara Pandit. Vakreshwara Pandit ki jai. And now we're going to read from Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 9, Text 41. Please repeat after me. Evam swa karma patitam bhava vaitaranyam anyanya janma maranashana bhita bhitam pashyan janam sva para vigraha vaira maitram hanteti parachara piprihi muddham adya evam swakarma patitam bhava vaitaranyam anyonya janma maranashana bhita bhitam Pashyanjanam swapara vigraha vaira maitram Pashyanjanam swapara vigraha vaira maitram Hanteti parachara viprihi muddamadyam Viprihi muddamadyam Evam swakarma patitam bhava vaitaranyam Anyonya janma maranashana bhita bhitam Pashyanjanam saparavigraha vaira maitram Hanteti parachara piprihi mudamadya Evam swakarma patitam bhava vaitaranyam Anyonya janma maranashana bhita bhitam Pashyanjanam saparavigraha vaira maitram Hanteti parachara piprihi mudamadya Evam swakama patitam bhava vaitaranyam Anyonya janma maranashana bhita bhitam Pashyanjanam sapada vigraha vaira maitram Hanteti parachara piprihi mudamadya Hanteti parachara piprihi mudamadya Swakarma patitam bhava vaitaranyam Swakarma patitam bhava vaitaranyam Anyonya janma maranashana bhita bhitam Pashyanjanam sapada vigraha vaira maitram Hanteti parachara piprihi mudamadya Hanteti parachara piprihi mudamadya Evam swakarma patitam bhava vaitaranyam Evam swakarma patitam bhava vaitaranyam Anyonya janma maranashana bhita
sada bita bitam.
Pashyanjanam swapari vigraha vairamatram.
Pashyanjanam sapada vigraha vaira maitram.
Ante parachara piprahi mudhamadya.
Ante parachara piprahi mudhamadya.
Anyone else? Go ahead.
Evam sakarma patitam bhava vaittaranyam. Anyo nijam vadanashana vita vitam. Pashyanjanam sapada vigraha vaira maitram.
Anyone online would like to chant with us?
Vijay.
Vijay, Krishna, Prabhu?
Yes, I'm here, but it's difficult for me because I'm accustomed to the tune of Brahma Samhita.
All right. Let me chant it once for you with that tune, then you can repeat. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Training.
Evam swakarma patitam bhava vaittaranyam. Janam nipatitam bhava vaittaranyam. Anyonya janna madanashada bita bitam. Pashyanjanam sapada vigraha vaira maitram. Hanteti paracharapi pihimudamadya. Okay, you're on.
Thank you. The Prabhu, you're most kind. Evam sakarma patitam bhava vaittaranyam.
Swakarma patitam bhava vaittaranya.
Anyonya janma mara nashana vita vitam. Pashyanjanam vapada vigraha vaira maitram.
Vaita maitram.
Anteti parachara pitri vimutam adyam. Yes, I need to repeat the last one. Anteti parachara pitri vimutam adyam.
Yeah, thank you, Vijay Krishna Prabhu. There's a lot of words here in this text, so well, maybe I'll just chant them myself just to save time. Is that okay with you, Vijay Prabhu? Yeah. Evam, in this way, swakarma patitam, fallen because of the reaction of one's own material activities. Bhava, compared to the world of nitions, birth, death, old age, and disease. Vaitaranyam, in the river known as Vaitarani, which lies in the front of the doorway of Yamaraj, the superintendent of death. Anyaha anya, one after another. Janma, birth. Marana, death. Ashana, different types of eating. Bhita, being exceedingly afraid. Pashyan, seeing. Janam, the living entity. Sva, one's own. Para, of others. Vigraha, in his body. Vaira maitram, considering friendship and enmity. Hanta, alas. Iti, in his way. Parachara, O you who are on the other side of the river of death. Piprihi, kindly save us all from the dangerous condition. Mudham, we are all foolish, bereft of spiritual knowledge. Adya, today, because you are personally present here. So we'll go on to translation and the purport by Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Closer? Okay, this will help. Okay. My dear Lord, you're always transcendentally situated on the other side of the river of death. But because of the reactions of our own activities, we are suffering on this side. Indeed, we have fallen into this river and are repeatedly suffering the pains of birth and death and eating horrible things. Now kindly look upon us, not only upon me, but also upon all others who are suffering, and by your causeless mercy and compassion, deliver us and maintain us. Purport. Prahlada Maharaja, a pure Vaiṣṇava, prays to the Lord not only for himself, but for all other suffering living entities. There are two classes of Vaishnavas, the Bhajana Anandis and Goshti Anandis. The Bhajana Anandis worship the Lord only for their own personal benefit. But the Goshti Anandis try to elevate all others to Krishna consciousness, so they may be saved. Fools who cannot perceive repeated birth and death and the other miseries of materialistic life cannot be sure of what will happen to them in their next birth. Indeed, these foolish, materially contaminated rascals have manufactured an irresponsible way of life that does not consider the next life. They do not know that according to one's own activities, one receives a body selected from 8,400,000 species. These rascals have been described in the Bhagavad Gita as Dushkritino Mudha. Non-devotees, those who are not Krishna conscious, must engage in sinful activities, and therefore they are mudhas, fools and rascals. They are such fools that they do not know what will happen to them in their next life. Although they see varieties of living creatures eating abominable things, pigs eating stool, crocodiles eating all kinds of flesh, and so on, they do not realize that they themselves, because of their practice of eating all kinds of nonsense in this life, will be destined to eat the most abominable things in their next life. A Vaishnava is always afraid of such an abominable life, and to free himself from such horrible conditions, he engages himself in the devotional service of the Lord. The Lord is compassionate to them, and therefore he appears for their benefit. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata apyuttanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. Whenever and wherever there's a decline in religious practice or descent of Bharata, and the predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. Bhagavad Gita 4.7. The Lord is always ready to help the fallen souls, but because they are fools and rascals, they do not take to Krishna consciousness and abide by the instructions of Krishna. Therefore, although Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is personally the Supreme Lord Krishna, he comes as a devotee to preach the Krishna consciousness movement. Yara dehe tarikaha Krishna upadesha. One must therefore become a sincere servant of Krishna. Amaragnya Gurahana Tara Desha. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 7.128. One should become a guru and spread Krishna consciousness all over the world simply by preaching the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. Om Jnana Timrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Marobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vancha Kalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindubhevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. All glories to Srimad Bhagavatam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. So we continue to hear the Prahlada Maharaja prayers. He's trying to pacify Lord Rishimadev. And in this prayer that I read today, he's speaking mostly about the abominable condition of life that we experience in this life, all the living entities. And mostly he's speaking about how everyone has to suffer, undergo different types of suffering in this material life. Srila Prabhupada, in his lecture, he says that this material life is like an epidemic, and we enter the epidemic. And if we're not cautious, if we're not careful, then we become contaminated and diseased ourselves. And it's true. In the Bhagavad Gita, text number 15 of the 8th chapter, Krishna says, Mamopetya punarjanma dukalayam ashashvatam. He says, Apnovati Mahatmana Samsiddhi Paramagatam, that rebirth for all living entities with not Krishna consciousness is guaranteed, because this life is this world is dukalayam ashashvatam. Dukalayam means it's full of kleshas, full of miseries, and ashashvatam means it's temporary. And the next verse says Abrahma Bhuvanaloka, that from lower planetary systems all the way to the higher planet, the highest planetary system, the planet Brahmaloka, there's always miseries and suffering that take place. And then Srila Prahlada Maharaja is mentioning this river in this text. It's called Vaitarani River. And I looked it up. It's appears in a few places in Srimad Bhagavatam, and there's a very interesting description. It's a river that lies in front of the doorway to Yamaraj. And so the description in the 5th canto of this river is that all the people, especially members of royalty and government positions, who disobeyed their prescribed duties as human beings, they come to this river. And while in that river, which is a moat surrounding hell, it's full of ferocious aquatic animals. There's a lot of animals that are trying to get you. They're trying to bite you, eat you, and hurt you. And while they're doing that, you're forced to think about your sinful activities that you committed. And besides all of this, that river is actually consisting of stool, urine, nails, hairs, gas, and fat. So this is the description of the river. And of course, we might say that why Prahlada Maharaja is saying this? We're not experiencing any of these things in this life as human beings or living entities. But ultimately, if we are not conscious of the Supreme Lord and of not serving Him, then this is the destination. If we disobey the rules and regulations of the Shastra, then this is the destination that will be awarded. And so in the 11th canto, Krishna told Uddhava that all the living entities they call jiva. They are part and parcels of me. But due to ignorance, they've been suffering in material bondage from time immemorial. And immemorial means it's pretty much seems like eternal times. It seems like it's been going on forever. And they're suffering due to this bondage. But then he says there's a solution to the suffering, how to get free from the suffering. And he says that the solution is knowledge. And what kind of knowledge is described in the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita? Raja Vijraja Guyam Pavitramidam Uttamam Pratyaksha Vagamam Dharmyam Susukham Kartam Avayam. That knowledge is very confidential. And confidential means that not anyone can just open these books and read and understand the Sanskrit or even the translation. So actually most important in this age of Kali Yuga is not the translation of the Bhagavad Gita, but the commentaries of the Acharyas. Because if we don't have the commentaries of the Acharyas, even though we might read the translation, but then it leaves the room for speculation, and the understanding might not be proper. So that's why this knowledge is called confidential, guhyam. Srila Prabhupada in the commentaries to this text, he says, to free himself from such horrible conditions, he engages himself in the devotional service of the Lord. And also if we look at the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, after the text 15 and 16, that describes about the repetition, the rebirth for living entities and no rebirth for pure devotees, there's a text 8.22 that speaks about Ananya Bhakti, or devotional service. And that devotional service, that's called Ananya. It guarantees, or unalloyed, it guarantees that if we participate in this devotional service, then we do not have to come back and take rebirth. We go to the planet of Krishna. It says, Purusha saparaparta bhakti labhyastananya yasyantastani bhutani yena sarvamadam tatam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is greater than all, is attainable by unalloyed devotion. Although He is present in His abode, He is all-pervading, and everything is sustained within Him. So that's the destination of the pure devotees. And if we engage our vital energy senses, the mind, intellect, the words we speak, places we go to, the thoughts we think, if we engage this in service to Krishna, then we will be getting purified. And so similarly in the 11th canto it is described the qualification or the characteristic of a saintly person. This is from Uddhava Gita, but also Krishna mentioned it to Arjuna, characteristics of a saintly person. And it is described two main things. First one is when the saintly person is being approached by non-devotees and they blaspheme him or trying to insult him, he doesn't become angry. He's not agitated. And the second thing is he's not enlivened when being worshipped or glorified. And that is a real test for self-realization. When we are being glorified or being worshipped, sometimes it's really difficult to properly behave in this situation, especially for me. But ultimately, we know that all the honors and worship and admiration and glorifications, they do not belong to us. We should, in our mind or even in our action, in some way retaliate, or reciprocate. Exactly. That's a better word. Or at least in our mind, we can send it further to our Srila Prabhupada, spiritual master, Guru Parampara. That's the proper way to be in a situation of being glorified. And there's an example of Bhakti Tirtha Swami. When he was, he joined the distributing books in the libraries, in different colleges. And he was doing so huge. He was distributing a lot of books. And Srila Prabhupada taught him this one very interesting technique. He said that you got to go to a big university and find a well-known professor, and then distribute sets to him, and then take a order receipt, and then go to different universities and show that, we distributed this to this professor. You must take this too. So that's what Bhakti Tirtha Swami did, and he did really well in America, European countries. And so one time it was the end of Srila Prabhupada's days when he was really weak. He traveled to England, and Bhakti Tirtha Swami was there. So Srila Prabhupada wanted him to come for darshan, and Bhakti Tirtha Swami came for darshan. And then Srila Prabhupada told him, come close to me. And then he was rubbing his head, he was massaging his head. And he was saying to him, your life is successful. Now your life is successful. And Bhakti Tirtha Swami was very happy to be so close and get such a personal love, reciprocation of Srila Prabhupada. The other time when he was also in England, Tamal Krishna Goswami, he wanted him to hear how Srila Prabhupada becomes so enthused and happy when the scrolls are being read to him about book distribution. So Bhakti Tirtha Goswami came, and he was expecting that now Srila Prabhupada is also going to give me a lot of his attention, a lot of love, And he started reading to him different reports, devotee, and people that he would meet. And then Srila Prabhupada stopped him and said, only by Krishna's mercy that this is possible, that you distribute so many books. So it's important to always keep this in our mind, that yes, we are distributing books or doing any services, and it might be of good quality and success, but it's only by Krishna's mercy. Other than that, it's impossible, because where do we get knowledge from, and where do we get enthusiasm from? From Krishna. So now see Prahlada Maharaja as being an exemplary devotee. He's so humble. He's saying, please be merciful to us, he's saying to Lord Nrsimhadev, to us, not to me, but to everyone who is suffering in this life, in this world. And he's saying, please be compassionate, help us. So the position of a Vaiṣṇava is always to be paradukha dukhi, or to be para upakara, to always think about how to benefit other living entities. It's really essential and crucial in developing Krishna consciousness. So therefore in this commentary, Srila Prabhupada describes two different types of devotees. The first type is bhajananandis. Those are the ones who, they're generally known as devotees who are interested in their own bhajan, and they like to be in seclusion. They do not travel so much, but they do follow regulations, acharyas, and necessary things for from Vidya Nisheda. But then there's a second class is the Goshtyanandis, and those devotees, this class of Vaishnavas, they like to help. They like to come and travel and risk their lives in helping other people. And therefore they are abiding the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who wanted us to distribute these beautiful fruits of bhakti to the hands of people. And a great example of this is Narada Muni, who traveled anywhere within the planetary systems, and he would help so many people to become devoted to Krishna. He appears in this chapter, in this canto, and in every canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. He's a very exalted Vaiṣṇava. So Narada Muni, he made a devotee, Brigari, who was a hunter, killing different animals, thinking that there's no, not understanding, there's no reaction. He was thinking there's no reactions for this. But Narada Muni, with the power of his association and instructions, he helped them. And eventually he became a devotee. And then Dhruva Maharaj, he gave him the mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So Dhruva Maharaj also understood his position, that whatever I was looking for is just a broken glass. I don't really need it. And now he's helping Prahlada Maharaj. Although Prahlada Maharaj is, from very birth, he is acquainted with instructions of Narada Muni. So it's a very, very special situation. And so if we become Paropakara devotees, if we become preachers, if we really distribute these fruits of bhakti, of mercy, of kripa, then, as said in the 5th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Yoga Yukta Vishuddhatma, Vijitatma Jitendriya, Sarabhutatma Bhutatma, Kurvana Pina Lipyate. That everyone, if you act as a pure soul and control your mind and senses, everyone becomes dear to you, and everyone reciprocates. Of course, with some exceptions, but mostly everyone is happy. I really like this part of the Bhagavad Gita also in this 7th chapter when Krishna is speaking about austerities, the mind and body, speech and things like that. Srila Prabhupada is, when Krishna is speaking about the mind, he's given this very interesting thing, how to become satisfied in Krishna consciousness and in the mind. He speaks about that we should engage ourselves in 17th chapter. He says in the comment, we should engage our mind constantly in how to think good of others, how to benefit them. And the best practice for the mind is gravity of thought. And then he says, satisfaction of the mind can be obtained only by taking the mind away from sense gratification. So those are really simple things. We all heard this many times, but this is the most helpful tool, is thinking of how to benefit everyone. It means preaching, going out and preaching. And gravity of thought, self-control, controlling senses is another way to for the mind to be satisfied, is another practice for devotees. Because if we become dear to everyone by our preaching, then we get kripa by Krishna and by Guru. And if we get that kripa, our consciousness becomes pure. And if our consciousness becomes pure, then our mind is controlled. And if our mind is controlled, then it's easy for us to fixate our mind on the lotus feet of Krishna and meditate on Krishna like that. So the famous text in the Padma Purana says, Samartavya satam Vishnur, Smartavya najatu chit. That we should constantly think about Krishna and never forget him. Never forget him. Sara vidhi nisheda syur eta yorava kinkara. Kinkara means servants. So these principles of vidhi nisheda should be the servants to these two instructions, two activities. Vidhi nisheda. Vidhi nisheda means regulations, rules, coming from scripture and from a spiritual master. Vidhi nisheda. Yeah, do's and don'ts. Anakulasya, reticulasya. So there's many instructions we receive, but they should help us to remember Krishna and never forget him. And we do that by chanting. Of course, naturally, we're not inclined to chant all day long. So therefore, it is recommended to be practical. We chant 16 rounds and go do particular services, engage in the morning program, and also go out and preach, help people, arrange programs, and just preach in any way that is beneficial for the people. And we should know that it's also going to help us in our Krishna consciousness. In the text about in one text of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada explains that we may be selling books and making life members, going out there, but it's actually an impetus for us to remember Krishna. Because when we go out and do these things, it's impossible to not be Krishna conscious and think of Krishna, because we're so dependent on Krishna, And if we're not Krishna conscious and seriously approaching the services, then we won't be able to really be steady in the services. So therefore, this is an impetus for us to always remember Krishna, Smartavya, Satata Vishnur. And we might be just showing a few pictures and have very short discussions with people. Nevertheless, it's still an activity that helps us to be Krishna conscious and remember Krishna. And I remember I recently met this one person. Her name is Lucretia, and I showed her just one picture from JSD, one picture of the changing bodies. And she was completely fascinated by it. Because I told her that, you see, we have different bodies, the different forms of lives. But nevertheless, our consciousness is the same. So my consciousness, your consciousness, and the consciousness of this flower I put out of the picture, it's the same. We just cover it differently. And she said, yeah, I reciprocate, I like this a lot. She's an influential person. She has her business, and she, helps people in spiritual path and mental health and things like that. So she told me one interesting thing. She said, I came to Balboa Park exactly for this reason, just to have this type of discussions and to receive something of like this, like books like this, And it's interesting because we do see people who are just wandering through Balboa Park and they're thinking about, no, now I'm gonna, something special is gonna happen to me. I'm gonna go to the park and I'll meet someone, I'll experience something special. They go to museums, and cinema, different places, all globe, because we're seeking knowledge. This is our nature. Satchitananda. We are always trying to go after knowledge and happiness. Srila Prabhupada gave a lecture. I'll conclude with this a little remembrance from the lecture and the pastime. He gave a lecture on this text in Mayapur in March of 1976. And he was bringing up this point that sometimes people, he was telling devotees, when you preach, people sometimes accuse you, right? And yes, they accuse us. And one of the common things they say that why is God so merciful, but He puts us in this situation where we have to suffer, and people have to eat abominable things, or people have to eat lavishly, or people suffer, people are happy. Why is it these things are taking place? Why are there epidemics and wars and violence? And then Srila Prabhupada explained that this is not God's creation. We desired for this material world to be there. So that's why we're here, experiencing Dukhalayama Shashvatam everywhere. And he gives a very common example that the judge is given decisions in the court, but he's impartial. He's not just thinking about how to favor this person or that person. No, he's completely neutral. And at some point he gives $1 million to someone. At some point he sentences someone to death. And it's all because the murderer just created this particular situation, and he deserves the punishment. So similarly, Krishna is impartial, and his Maya Dakshina Prakriti, his Apara Prakriti, his material energy is working to punish, to give reactions for particular activities. And I met this one lady. She's from Russia. Her friend is Hispanic. We were together. We also had this type of discussion. And she was also kind of trying to tell me, well, God is merciful, but why is there's war, the war in Ukraine, so many people are suffering, children are being killed. How do you justify this? And I tried explaining to her this particular instance, and this how Srila Prabhupada explains it. And I also said that we're not born innocent. There's a chain of reactions that come from our past activities. So therefore, if you understand and judge the situation with this type of understanding, then you can have a little bit more clearance and understanding. And so she kind of was satisfied a little bit to an extent in the mind. And the guy next to her, he was understanding, and he was appreciating. He said, "Yeah, we're ignorant because there's an absence of knowledge." He didn't mention that to me. And so further, she was interested in the books, but she told me something interesting. It's kind of a funny story. She said, I am from Russia. I met devotees before, but I've had a few really strange instances with devotees. She said, well, first instance was I came to the temple a few times, and devotees, they were making me read these books. They were just making me get these books, buy them from them, and read them. Are you going to make me read these books? Are you going to make me read Bhagavad Gita? I said, no, we're not going to do this. Because, she likes the classes a lot, but she doesn't like this forceful attitude. Are you going to make me read this Bhagavad Gita? I said, no, we just take it and take it at your own will, But you want to read the Bhagavad Gita. And another thing she said, she had a friend, and apparently he's a initiated Brahmin, so they went skiing together. Skiing. And he brought a murti of Krishna with himself. And he said, can you please hold this murti of Krishna for me? I'm going to go skiing. I don't know why he decided this. And so she didn't know anything, so she put him in the backpack. And then when he came back, he's like, why did you do that? What's wrong with you? Are you crazy? This is a real person. And she's like, why are you yelling at me? I didn't know any better, I don't know. And then they went to the hotel, and in the hotel, I guess he went to his own room, and then she knocked on, she came to his door, it was a little open ajar. She came there, and he's just, Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashnaya, he's offering bhoga to the Murti. And she's like, wow, this guy's crazy. He's talking to the Murti, he's yelling at me, what's going on? And well, I guess this devotee, I can understand. Maybe he's trying to be merciful and give an opportunity for her to kind of do a little service. But then she was trying to ask me, why is this? Why are you doing all these things? Why are you before Krishna bowing down, talking to him, always Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, chanting all the time? And I explained that when you try to approach God out of affection, then what happens is that God reciprocates, Krishna reciprocates with you, and you can feel it in your life. Just like when you eat foodstuffs, you become sad. There's a feeling you can see that. So when God is personally present in life, it creates a relationship, and then it's a real thing. It's an ongoing experience, just like relationship with people. So that's why it's happening. And she was just like, oh wow, that's why. So anyway, both of them they took some of the Srila Prabhupada's books, and she asked me, I'd like to come listen to classes. Can I come listen to classes? And I said, yes, we have a great saint, Dravida Prabhu, who gives nice classes every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And so if you come to his classes, we won't force you to buy and read Bhagavad Gita, but you'll nicely hear, and this is going to be all great. So yeah, I'm amazed every time I go out on book distribution how many people know about Krishna, want to know about Krishna. It's quite an ecstatic thing, and especially nowadays we see some devotees all over the United States and in the world distribute so many books, and people are reciprocating. It's actually just the mercy of Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, Goswamis of Vrindavan, our spiritual master. So yeah, we should just take advantage and participate. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for listening. Are there any questions or comments?
Just one comment. Very interesting, because this word Vaitaranyam, indicates the Vaitarani river. It's this river between the material and spiritual world, And there's a lot of suffering in the river. Bhava Vaitaranya is the place. But just 2 verses from this. Now he's saying, my dear Lord, you were always transcendently situated on the other side of the Vaitarani river, right? That's what this verse is. But because of the reactions of our own activities, we're suffering on this side. You see? But just 2 verses later, this famous verse is coming up on it now. Naibo Vijay Paradabhajara Vaitaranyas. You see that?
Yeah.
That Prabhupada doesn't mention it in the translation here, but Duratya Vaitaranya is difficult or insurmountable to cross the Vaitarani. But I'm not disturbed or afraid of that river. This verse he says, I'm suffering on this side. You see that? But then 2 verses later, I'm not suffering at all. Why? Twadvuyagayana Mahamrita Magnachitta. Because I'm always immersed in an ocean of nectar by chanting your glories. And that's what Sankirtan is. You're chanting the glories. Krishna's giving you so much bliss, and that's attractive. People can see that in you, that you're being enlivened by these books, and like that. But I just find it very interesting that he uses the very same words. He's in this mood now for some verses now of saying, I'm so fallen, I'm helpless, and you can save me, and please But really, he's doing that for us. We can really offer the prayers, and he's teaching us how to pray. But when he comes out of that 2 verses from now, he said, that's not where my real lamentation is. My real lamentation is for the poor souls who don't have you. You know, it's very interesting.
Yeah, even though a devotee feels sattva jivan mukti, you know, he feels that he's acting on a liberated, of course, not me, but even though he feels transcendental joy and happiness of his real nature in relationship with Krishna, he feels unhappy because he looks around and he sees so many living entities suffering. They're suffering in the world, and he wants to help. Come and help.
That is simple phrase. You can say
Para dukkha dukkhi. Yeah, compassion for the living entities. Anything else, please?
Hare Krishna.
Haribol. Vijay Krishna Prabhu, please go ahead.
Yes. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada is making use of the word irresponsible.
Where is it?
And based on this word, my question is, I do have my minute independence. And that is the same as to say that because I have my minute independence, I can do with my life whatever I want. So, and if I choose to go for being irresponsible, what is the harm?
Thank you. I think that you're saying from this sentence, indeed these foolish materially contaminated rascals have manufactured an irresponsible way of life. This is the sentence you're referring to, right?
Yes, that is the sentence.
The answer is in the next sentence. They do not know that according to one's own activities, one receives a body selected from 8,400,000 species. So if we...
But I do have my minute independence, so how do you explain that still I am going to be punished?
Yeah, misuse of the independence, misuse and neglect of the laws of nature and Krishna, that unfortunately leads you to suffering and to act foolishly, as Srila Prabhupada describes, and he mentions the text in the Bhagavad Gita, Duskritino Mudha, that if you're non-devotee, if you're not Krishna conscious, then you engaged in simply just sinful activities. And sinful activities that it means ignorance and suffering. So therefore, if you misuse you independence from Krishna, that's the destination. Abrahma bhavanaloka, we're going to be experiencing different clashes that comes from the body, the other living entities, and material nature. That's the destination of those who are misuse the independence given by Krishna.
Let me expand a little bit. Just it's the word, I think, the word irresponsible. It's irresponsible. It's related to the word duty, because responsibility is usually to a higher authority. You know, I don't want to do it, but I'm responsible for for maintaining these kids. Therefore, I'll go to work. You know, you accept that duty. Otherwise, you're more demonic. I had these kids. Who cares? You know, I'm going out and try to enjoy. Then that's the worst. So accepting responsibility has to do with accepting duty. So the whole question is, from what authority do you accept the duty? Mm-hmm. And when you because that's involved also with dharma. Dharma means that it's a path or it's something that you engage in order to get some goal. Now there's fake dharmas, but there's also the paradharma, supreme dharma, savaipangsang dharma. That dharma which awakens your original relationship with Krishna, with Krishna. So that's what responsibility means here, is that they're irresponsible to their own self-interest, and what to speak of Krishna and all all these great personalities who try to help us. So when just like Arjuna, he was being irresponsible. He wanted to quit the battlefield, but he's in such an important position to fulfill Krishna's desires to fight. If he doesn't fight, then the battle may be lost, like that. So he was of course taking that role, but so he was trying to say, I got to be responsible for all these poor ladies who'll be without husbands and will be varnasankara. So he tried to create that, but his real responsibility, ultimate responsibility, is to Krishna and his will. And if we do that, then we become happy and we create the best fortune for everybody else. That's the idea.
And then just add to this, thank you, in this 16th chapter in the text number 23, it is mentioned that he who discards scriptural injunctions and acts according to his own whims, then he doesn't attain perfection nor happiness nor the final supreme destination. So if we act whimsically and if we disregard the scriptures, even though we might hear the scripture, then unfortunately we cannot attain the supreme destination and be happy. And that's a sign of being irresponsible. Is that okay, Vijay Krishna Prabhu?
Yes, both answers, your answer and the answer of the Prabhu, it pleased me a lot. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Your question also pleased us all. Thank you.
You're welcome.
One last question from Sankarshan.
I just had a question about this this term Bhajanandi and Goshanandi. It just would it be considered that they could have like there's like the 10 offenses, the 10th offense, being like attached and stuff like that. Like they have like kind of egos within their sadhana and stuff. Like a Bhajanandi says like, oh, I have a strong connection with the holy name. Then even a Goshanandi said like, oh, I'm the only one chanting. I'm the one distributing the holy name to everybody. So I was wondering, how can these be made in connection? If it made sense.
Yeah, you're saying that if we make offenses, then we become only interested in our own practice and not interested in going out to preach. If we kind of a little bit, you could say, go away from the devotees association and make offenses. Is that what you're saying, or am I misunderstood?
It was the same, or like you fall in these subdivisions, maybe like Bhajanandi and Goshanandi, and then so you're practicing, but then by practicing, then your false ego kind of gets involved, and then you start having these like ideas of like, I and mine within my chanting, and then me distributing the holy name, and how can these like false egos kind of come and play within our sadhana like that. I don't know if that makes more sense.
Well, if we experience something like this in our sadhana practice, then we can try to consult more senior devotees. And one thing I remember I was just reading recently in the 11th canto, it is described that sometimes we engage in studying the Shastras, we become a very learned person, and we might miss the ultimate goal if we too much concentrate on our own spiritual practice. That's the point. If we also chant the holy name, we might miss the ultimate goal, which is to become Krishna conscious, to attain prema pumartha mahan, attain love of God. And Srimad Bhagavatam gives this very interesting example. It says that just like when you take care of a cow, the cow, it requires a lot of austerity. You have to wake up early in the morning. I have a little bit of personal experience. Wake up early in the morning. You go into the shed. You got to feed them. You got to milk them. You got to make sure they're healthy, because they can get some disease, infections, and things like that. It requires a lot of work, and then you have to do it every day. So, and if you're doing all these things, if you concentrate, but the cow doesn't give any milk, so what's the purpose? Only its own work. And that's the given result. So this kind of relates to our interest in sadhana bhakti. If I'm interested only in my own practice, and I don't go out and help people, and I'm kind of struggling on my own with my anarthas, and I don't reveal my mind to anyone, and don't speak about it, don't bring it up, then this is what happens. I'm trying very hard, but I get nothing, no actual progress. The cow doesn't give any milk to me. Does that somehow further answer?
One final word on this. This I heard some time ago, and it was very telling, that a Goshanandi, a genuine Goshanandi, is a Bhajananandi who preaches. Bhajananandi is part of our tradition. We've had our Bhajanandis, great souls. I mean, you could say that Gorkishore Das Babuji, the Bhajananandi, he told, I'll never go to Calcutta when Bhaktisiddhanta was thinking of going. And Bhaktisiddhanta finally went, and his rationale was, well, I've never really I'm always in Vrindavan. you know, I never really left Mayapur. You know, he's in Calcutta, but there's a little piece of Calcutta now, which is part of Vrindavan. So he's still in. But that idea that they're not mutually exclusive, that a Goshanandi becomes strong to preach by having a strong bhajan, you know, sadhana bhajan. He's drinking that nectar, and therefore he really wants to share it. And don't forget that Krishna says, because the whole point is to become dear to Krishna. So he says, there's no one dearer to me than one who tries to spread the message. In the 18th chapter, very famous version of the Tasman Manusheshu Kastame Priyakritam. So there's a mix there. But if someone is wholly and solely simply concerned, right now I'm going to Vrindavan, I'm going to chant 108 rounds every day, whatever. Prabhupada said, no, that's premature. You won't be able to do it. You know, you need to. There's a time for that in your later life when you don't really have the energy to, then you can retire. That's one of the reasons he wanted to build a big place in Vrindavan. And in Mayapur, where the devotees who preached all their life, they can retire and simply, bhajan. Of course, nowadays with the internet and with so much travel, you can be a bhajananandi, and then when certain times come, you can share that with thousands of devotees, in Mayapur like that. But there's an important relationship. You can't just be a Goshanandi and not get any ananda from bhajan. You're straight bhajan. You're getting both. They interact. That's my.
I'll just thank you, Drew. That's wonderful. You can practice them both. But one thing I remember from some lectures of spiritual teachers is that sometimes, we might be upset or we might be hurt by experiences in the temple, devotees association, and things like that. So the best practice at that moment is to become interested in coming to Krishna in your bhajan and just to kind of take shelter in the holy name and for a while, maybe for the whole day, and just kind of prioritize that. And in life, in our life, with my own little experience, sometimes it's just necessary to prioritize chanting over anything else, socializing, association. So it's something that is a part of. Thank you so much. I thank you for attending the class. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.